Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Happy Tag Tuesday. Now, in my last video, I told you I was going to try to catch up on a couple of tags. So this morning, I'm going to try to tape a couple. I'll do one for today and then one for Thursday. And today's tag that I chose was the birth year book tag. And this was created by Criminali. He has put together this tag all about the year that you were born, and then he also added in the year you turned 18. And I like this tag. It's creative, gets you looking back at past books and how much have you read of older books. And so I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think I shared with you, I find these tags that people do, and every time one comes up that I think is interesting that I'd like to do, I'll copy paste the questions over to a Google Doc. And I have literally got a 100-page document in my Google Docs of nothing but tags. And so I do have a lot of these to get caught up on. Some of them I've done off the list already, but there's a whole lot of them I have not. And so I have really got to get going on these. So like I said, today we are going to tackle the birth year book tag. Again, created by Criminali. It's only 5 questions long. It has a couple of sub questions, so maybe it's got a couple more than 5, but let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess there's 10 total questions. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with this. The first question in the birth year book tag is, have you read any books published in the year you were born? And yes, I have. I went to the Goodreads. Criminali leaves a link to Goodreads where you can look up books published by year. And I went to the Goodreads page and found my birth year of 1980. Not that long ago, unless you're talking to my middle school kids, and then they think that's when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, but that's okay. That's okay. But anyway, answer was yes, I have. So the first sub question is, if so, what's your favorite and why? And the one that I chose was Michael Crichton's Congo. I really like that book. It was set in the Congo, and it's based around a bunch of, I believe, gorillas that had gone mad, and the scientists have to go in, and there's just a whole bunch of adventure and danger, and very, very good book. I like the movie that went with it also. I enjoyed watching that. I'd like to watch that one again. I'll have to try to find that, but I really like the book. And all my Michael Crichton stuff is due for rereads, so that might be one that I pick up sometime in the near future. So that would be my favorite. And then it asks, do you have any other favorites? That's the next sub-question. A couple of my other favorites, Charlotte's Web came out, I believe, in 1980. That's what it said on the list. So Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. And I am about ready to, I believe, partake in that again because we got spring break coming and we're going to go on a little vacation. And so one of the audio books that we got that we're going to listen to with my 4-year-old, who has never, she's not watched the movie or obviously read the book. So we're going to listen to that in the car. The last vacation we went on, we listened to Little House on the Prairie. And I know we've got another one of those downloaded for audiobooks during the drive, but she's going to get to experience that. And I think she'll really like it. I think she'll really like the movie. And then the other book that I wrote down was Clan of the Cave Bear. And this was the Earth Children series, the first book in that series by Jean Auel, A-U-E-L. I never can remember how to pronounce her last name, but I thought that was a wonderful book. When I was in school, my history teacher, anytime he was gone or we were in between, like we were getting ready to maybe head into Christmas vacation or something like that, he'd pop that thing in. I think we probably saw that movie 4 or 5 different times in school. Not that that's right, but yeah. Anyway, I'm very familiar with the movie. I believe it was it Daryl Hannah? Was that the main actress? And I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the book more. I thought the book was really good. I do need to go read the rest of the books in that series. I've read number 1, and then I just did not get to the rest of them because they're pretty big books, pretty good size. Those would be good March of the Mammoths type books, and it would March of the Mammoth would even play into the time period. But anyway, good book. And then it says, the third sub-question is, if you haven't read any birth year books, which one do you pledge to read in the next 6 months, and why have you chosen it? Now, even though I have read some, I'm going to go ahead and make a pledge here. A couple of them that I would like to read is the Bourne Identity, which is the first book in the Jason Bourne series by Robert Ludlum. It's a really big book. I don't know if I'll actually get that one done in the next 6 months, but I would like to try to tackle that one soon. It is one that I collected actually a lot of the Robert Ludlum books, and then I ended up, when I had to clean out the collection, I never got to them, but I ended up donating them because I had them for so long and didn't get to them. But I want to go back and try to find that first book and read that again. I love the movies. I know my daughter really likes that type of genre, and so I want to give it a try. And then the other book is The Outsiders by Essie, Hinton. And The Outsiders, as my 8th graders, I believe, they read that in language arts every year. And I have never read it. I don't believe I have read it anyway. And I would like to try to read that book with them. I've been really working hard on doing that this year. As the kids are reading books in their language arts class, I'm trying to read them right along with them. And just like I just got done reading My Brother Sam is Dead. I read that over the weekend, and what an excellent book. Not for my birth year, though. But anyway, I've been trying to do that, so The Outsiders would be the perfect book to pick up. All right, so question number 2. Have you read any books published in the year you turned 18? And so since I was born in 1980, the year I turned 18 was 1998. And yes, I have read a couple of the books from 1998. My favorite would be The Street Lawyer by John Grisham. That was actually the very first book that I was introduced to with Grisham. Now, growing up, I had watched all of the Grisham movies that had came out, A Time to Kill, The Pelican Brief, all of those ones from the early to mid 90s. I watched all of those, and I really liked those movies. They did really well at the theater, and when they hit Blockbuster, and I always enjoyed those, but I had not read any of his books until right after I graduated. But I was first familiar with The Street Lawyer because over the winter of 1998, 1999, I went out, I flew on a plane, my little brother and I flew on a plane out to Pennsylvania, to Erie, Pennsylvania, and I stayed the Christmas with my Aunt Sandy and my Uncle Verl, and we went out there and did not think about buying Christmas gifts, and it was Christmas. I don't know what we were thinking. We had a little bit of spending money in our pockets, and one of the things I went to was, I knew my Uncle Verl loved to read, and we went to the used bookstore, and I found a copy of The Street Lawyer, and I bought that for him. And what really stuck with me was he picked up that book, and I think he read it in one day, maybe 2, but he read it really, really fast. And I thought, man, if he can get through that, that means it must be a pretty good book, pretty action-packed, fast-paced. And so I ended up picking it up a couple of years later. And during my time when I was collecting all of my John Grisham books while I was in college, I'd started doing that. And I've loved Grisham ever since, and definitely look forward to his new book coming out. But anyway, long story to a short answer, or no, long answer to a short question. Yeah, anyway, I'm rambling is what I'm getting at. A couple of other books that I read from 1998, several years ago when I was going through the first time I went through and started trying to read what my middle schoolers were reading, I started picking up the Harry Potter series. That was when they got very, very popular back in the, I don't know, it was probably around 2008, 9, 2010, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly, but I started trying to read them with the kids, and I read the first at least 2, maybe 3 Harry Potter books. And so in 1998, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second book in the series, came out. And so I read that. I read the book The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, which is a really good Christian book. And then I have the book Message in a Bottle. I know I've seen the movie. I think I have read the book. I am not 100% sure, and that might be one I just need to go reread or end up finding out it's a read for the first time. I can't remember, but I know I have it. I want to say I've read it, but I can't remember right off the top of my head. All right. So question number 3. Of the last 10 books you read, how many were published before you were born? Okay, so this is going to be half true, half not true. Let me explain. So when this tag came out and I printed it off, I first started filling this out. That was, what was it, a month and a half ago? I can't remember when exactly this came out. But right when it first came out, I started filling it out. I've read several books since then, but I'm going to use the answers that I had at that point. It may have been about a month ago this came out. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, of the last 10 at that point, 5 of them were from before I was born. And by the way, that's not uncommon. I like old books. I don't have a ton of money to be, just getting rid of. I don't think anybody does right now. But anyway, so I buy used books. If you're new to the channel, I buy used books. I like them cheap. And typically those older ones fall into that category. So it's nothing new for me to read older books. And older books are good, so it's not a problem. The sub-question is, what were they? Did you prefer them to newer books? And before I tell you the 5 that I read, I don't know that I have a preference for older versus newer. As far as reading goes, like content-wise, I like both. I like old stuff. I like new stuff. My preference comes from how much money I got to spend. So older books is what I prefer because of that. Let's see. So the 5 books that I read before the year I was born was, the first one was The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris, and that was published in 1979. Very, very good book. Highly recommend it. The second book I read was from Ian Fleming in 1957, and that was From Russia with Love. And so those are the James Bond thrillers. The third one I read was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and that was from 1883. And I had been reading like a chapter of that, not every night, but periodically as bedtime stories with my daughter. And she got to the point where I don't think she was ready for it, but she was really into pirates. That's why we wanted to try it. But anyway, I went ahead and just powered through the rest of the book. Number 4, Eisenhower in Berlin, 1945. That's by Stephen Ambrose, and that was originally published in 1967. I enjoyed that book. It put forth a pretty interesting argument. And then the 5th book that I read that was from before I was born was The Secret of the Old Clock, and that was from 1930, and that was a Nancy Drew mystery. I'd never read Nancy Drew before. I read the Hardy Boys, but I knew Nancy Drew was like the equivalent for girls, and so I wanted to try those, and I really liked it. I thought it was very well done. So those are 5 of the last 10 books I read from when I started to fill out this tag. I have since that point read more books from before I was born, but that list will work. Let's see here. Question number 4, what's your favorite movie from your birth year and why? Oh my gosh, there were some funny movies. Let me list just a handful of them to you from the year I was born. The movie Airplane, hilarious. Caddyshack, The Blues Brothers, Smokey and the Bandit 2, Coal Miner's Daughter, that was a good one. The Shining, that was a scary one. My favorite of those, I would probably go with Caddyshack. I have watched that movie over and over again, and it is absolutely hilarious. Absolutely love it. And if you've never got into, I would highly recommend hitting that late 1970s, early 1980s humor. Absolutely hilarious. And Caddyshack is right up there at the top of the list. Number 5, what's your favorite movie from the year you turned 18 and why? And there were a bunch of them. So, when I turned 18, that was what we went out and did for fun, was we went out to the movies or we went bowling, one of the two. But we'd go out to the movies and catch a flick. And so there's a lot of these that I've seen. And my family, when I was younger, we had a big family. And so to go do stuff as a family was very, very expensive. And so one of the things my mom did a lot over the weekends is she would go to the Blockbuster Video, and you could rent movies dirt cheap. And she would spend, $10, rent 5 movies or whatever, and we would have entertainment for the whole weekend. You could partake in it, or you could just stay in your room. It wasn't a big deal. And so that was just something we did for fun back then. So I had a list of a bunch of movies here. I'll just read them off, and then I will pick my favorite out of this bunch. The movie Fallen, Half Baked, that was funny. City of Angels, The Waterboy, There's Something About Mary, that was hilarious. Can't Hardly Wait, classic coming of age movie. Armageddon, U.S. Marshals, Rush Hour, Jackie Chan. Let's see, 6 Days, 7 Nights, Dirty Work, The Man in the Iron Mask, Major League, Back to the Minors. That was a movie that probably should have never been made. The first Major League was really good. I loved it. Second Major League, not quite as good, but I liked it. Major League Back to the Minors, the third movie, not so much. And then Lethal Weapon 4, that was awesome. I like all the Lethal Weapon movies. So if I had to pick 1 or 2 of these movies, I really liked Lethal Weapon 4. Like I said, I loved all the Lethal Weapon movies. And I also liked that coming-of-age movie, Can't Hardly Wait. There was something about that really stuck with me. So those are some of the books and movies from my birth year and when I turned 18. If you have not done this tag, go ahead and feel free to do it. Consider yourself tagged. I know a lot of people have already done it, but it's always fun listening to, going back down memory lane and listening to some of these answers, and you get to know people a little bit better and what their likes and dislikes are. So anyway, BookTube, like I said, I invite you to do the tag. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful Tag Tuesday, and until next time, happy reading.